Very sad news for all of you, and I think very sad news for all Australians. A giant of our movement, a great leader of our nation, Gough Whitlam, has left us. I rang and offered my condolences to Gough's son, Nicholas, this morning. He told me that the great man had passed in peace and comfort. He kept that certain grandeur to the very end. Gough's was a truly Australian life, and a life lived truly for Australia. Be it in uniform or in Parliament, in the Prime Ministership and around the world. Gough did not just want to serve our nation, he wanted to transform it utterly and permanently, and he most certainly did. I believe, like no other Prime Minister before or since, Gough Whitlam redefined our country. And in doing so, he changed the lives of a generation and generations to come. He reimagined Australia, our home, as a prosperous, modern, multicultural nation where opportunity belonged to everyone. The Whitlam government should not be measured in years, but in achievements. Our country is different because of him. By any test, our country is better because of him. Gough Whitlam spent his political life reaching for higher ground, on encouraging Australia to reach for higher ground. Think for a moment of all that he's changed, forever and for the better. Healthcare changed because of him. Education changed because of him. Land rights for Indigenous Australians changed because of him. Our place in Asia, in particular our relationship with China, changed because of him. Our troops home from Vietnam, the birthday ballot ended because of him. The death penalty abolished and discrimination banished from our laws because of him. Our suburbs at the centre of national debate because of him. His speechwriter and confidant, Graham Freudenberg, once observed, "There are some who say he did too much too soon. But few can say that what he did could have waited any longer." Gough never lacked the courage for the good fight. It was this courage, this determination, that made him the great reformer of the Labor Party, the greatest reformer in the history of our party. Gough Whitlam loved the Labor Party, and Gough Whitlam changed the Labor Party. He shook Labor up. He made our party relevant to the modern, multicultural, fair and reconciled country of the grand vision. In 1964, Gough entered the Victorian Trades Hall Council in Melbourne. He said he had a speech prepared for the Labor Party, but he decided that he would not deliver it because there were two Labor parties in that Trades Hall in 1964. There were the men, the delegates and the candidates, and there were the women making the tea and preparing the meals out the back. Gough declared then that we did not deserve to be called the Labor Party until we were one Labor Party. Gough declared then that until we were one Labor Party, we did not deserve to govern. The result was that the women stopped making the tea, that they were no longer consigned to the back of the room. And so began the making and the journey of modern Labor. Gough refashioned our party. He drew it out of its narrow partisan divisions into an inclusive social democracy. And he stirred with his wit and his capability many brilliant citizens into public service. He was indeed an agent for democracy, an agent for tolerance. Democracy and tolerance are defining features of our country. Of course, great leaders can make national character. Great leaders can make national values. These are very important qualities, and their strength depend at every turn upon the capacity of great leaders. He was sacked, unprecedented in Australian history. But of all leaders, therefore, none had arguably more cause to carry an anvil of hatred, but he did not. In defending tolerance and defending democracy, Whitlam defined his character and his values and our nation's. There will be more to say about the loss of this great man. I know that so many of you will have personal stories and memories of inspiration to share. And in remembering Gough, we remember his wife Margaret, a great Australian in her own right, and of course their life together, a great Australian love story. I know the thoughts of all here in the Labor Party and the tens of thousands of Labor Party members and the millions of Australians who support Labor, and indeed many Australians who do not, but respect the contribution of Edward Gough Whitlam, that all of those thoughts are with the family of Gough Whitlam today. The line of public service did not begin with Gough and his family, and it has not ended with him. There will be more tears shed today, I believe, for Gough Whitlam than perhaps any other leader in Australian history. And his beloved men and women of Australia will long remember where they were this day. It's time, Gough told us. Because of him, because of his life and legacy, it's always time. It's always time for a more generous and inclusive Australia. It's always time to help our fellow Australians rise higher than their current circumstance. It's always time for courage and leadership to create and seize opportunity. It's always time. Gough's light shines before him, and the memory of his great works will live long in the heart of our nation. I would like to move a statement of condolence. Senator Faulkner will second it, and then perhaps after that, with the agreement of the Chair of the caucus, we'll have a minute's silence. I move the caucus notes with sadness the passing of Australia's 21st Prime Minister, the Honourable Edward Gough Whitlam, ACQC, and sends its sympathies to Gough's loving family, including his children, Anthony, Nicholas, Stephen and Catherine, their partners and their grandchildren. Caucus acknowledges his many achievements, including universal health care, free university education, Indigenous land rights, an end to conscription, the abolition of the death penalty, the diplomatic recognition of China, the Racial Discrimination Act, the Family Law Act and no-fault divorce, legal aid, vital changes to our social security system and reform of the Australian Labor Party. Caucus recognises that Australia has changed permanently and for the better by the successes of the Whitlam government.